Good evening. My name is Monty Martin,
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
and we are the Dungeon Dudes. Welcome to our Homebrew workshop. This is our infrequent, but hopefully more frequently now, uh, an opportunity to get some feedback on the creations of our Patreon supporters. So we asked several of our patrons to send us a feat or a magic item that they had created for their games of D&D 5e for us to read over and give some feedback. And so I think in total we had almost 100 submissions because
Yeah,
people could submit two of one or one of each. And
yeah.
most people, I think so, 50 people submitted 100 things.
So, yes, 50 people submitted 100 things. Well, 50 people submitted two things each. If they all submitted 100 things, that would be a lot. But
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
uh,
Oh, yeah, that'd be too
we,
many.
we will not be able to go over all 5 billion things that were submitted today, nor will we be able to go over all 100 things that were submitted today. But I do want to say that we read through them all. There were some awesome ideas. Generally, what Monty and I do is we read them together. And if it spurs a conversation between the two of us, that goes into the maybe pile. And then from there, we select the ones that are going to take up probably the most
Hmm.
of our time on the show, based on the ones that we think we can have the deepest conversations about. So if we don't pick yours, it doesn't even mean that we didn't like it. It didn't mean that it wasn't amazing. Sometimes they're amazing, but we're just like, yep, that's great, and no notes. And I, it's pretty straightforward what this idea is.
Hmm.
And so we just don't have anything to say about it. The ones that we try to pick are the ones that are like, this is interesting. How does this play in D&D? What is this going to do? What is it going to accomplish? Is this filling a niche? Is this something we can talk about? And so we managed to select, I think, about 10,
10 or
maybe.
11 entries. And so just so that you're aware, um, everyone did get to submit two, and some of the submissions you're going to see both of the entries, but we might only talk about one extensively for each. All of the we notified everyone that we're going to be featuring their stuff via email earlier today. So these are the works of the creators, and they've given us their permission to showcase their work on the stream. And so, as always, we like to stay positive and we like to be supportive. And so, those of you that are following along in the comments or in feedback, remember these fine folks have submitted their work to get some honest and constructive feedback on what they've created. So, be nice, be kind, be constructive. That's our philosophy on these things, and we hope everyone else has that as well.
The other thing I will say is, obviously Monty and I have a history of writing and publishing D&D stuff, but a lot of people out there create without the specifics of knowing exactly what the format is. So when we're giving feedback and when you in chat might also be giving feedback, I would say don't worry about formatting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people just try to get their ideas across in the way that they feel is best. Sometimes it doesn't always look the same as it would in a book. That's
Oh,
fine.
oh yeah. In a lot of cases, most things need a couple steps of iteration in the conceptual phase to get to the fully realized wording. And of course, as something that even Kelly and I have learned from our own writing processes, oftentimes as the writer, you don't necessarily realize the loopholes. And it takes someone else's eyes to see, oh, these might be the problems, because you're usually excited about the idea. So, with that, let's dive in to the first of these. And I think that this submission comes to us from uh, Actimia. And this is the lightning rod. So Kelly,
Right.
do you wanna read this one out for us?
Yeah, so this is a trident, uncommon, and requires attunement. Both the head and shaft of this trident are made from a light silvery metal. Three prongs made up its head, arranged in a triangular shape. Set along the tip and outer edge of each prong are thin slivers of amber. The weapon picks up static electricity from most surfaces it touches. Every time you hit a creature with this weapon, it gains a charge. Once the trident reaches 3 charges, you have advantage on attacks with the trident. And the next hit with it discharges an electric shock into the target, dealing 46 extra lightning damage. If you do not attack with the weapon for 1 minute, the charges are harmlessly dissipated. While you hold the trident, you can use your reaction when you take fire, cold, lightning, thunder, or acid damage to grant yourself resistance against that damage instead. When you do so, the trident instantly gains 3 charges. You can only do this once per long rest. Note from the designer, I wanted a weapon that had some sort of cycle to it to make melee combat more dynamic. Perhaps the advantage is too much for the rarity, but I feel like it really adds to the, oh, here it comes feeling. What I'll say right away is the design intent, which the designer said in their notes, adding a cycle to make melee combat more dynamic. I like that design. I like the idea of a weapon that gains charges.
Yeah.
And then once it's at max charge, it gains powers, and then you can discharge it to do something extra. I think that that's a really cool design.
This is a superb implementation of a couple different mechanics for something that is not really explored in the core rules of the game. And I really like the way of the weapon gaining charges with every hit. It feels thematic. It feels appropriate. It feels really thematic for it to absorb energy as well and immediately fully charge. And honestly, my only feedback on that would be, I would be tempted to say, change it to thunder or lightning damage, drop the resistance, and simply say that if you take thunder or lightning damage, it just fully charges right away. I don't think it needs to be limited in that way. I think that that's super cool that if you take the appropriate damage, it just charges right up. But you don't necessarily get the resistance out of it.
What if specifically because, okay, so I imagine, well, I don't imagine, it's called the lightning rod. So I was going to say I imagine this thing is a sort of lightning rod, and
yes,
it is.
It is.
So what if you by wielding this rod, you gain resistance to thunder and lightning damage, as well as when you're hit with it. So you're taking half damage, but the other half of that energy goes into the lightning rod, fully charging it. So not only is it charging when you hit, you gain resistance to thunder and lightning damage, and if you're hit with that damage, fully charges the staff, allowing you to then do the extra 14 lightning damage on your next hit. I think rather than having it fire, cold, lightning, thunder, or acid, it's only thunder and lightning, because that's what I think of when I think of a lightning rod. And yeah, you're taking half damage on that damage type, but you're outputting the additional damage to your enemies.
Possibly. One of the things that I think is interesting about it is, and a few people in chat are talking about the advantage, there's some tightening of the wording that does need to happen here, and saying that while the trident has 3 charges, you have advantage on attacks made using the trident. And then I would say when the trident, when you hit with an attack using the trident, while it has 3 charges, all the charges are immediately expended and the target takes the extra damage. And so what it means is that you only have advantage on attack rolls in like, conceivably what would happen is you could make your attack with advantage and miss, and the charges wouldn't be expended, but you would be able to keep attacking with advantage until you hit once, and then all the charges blow away, the target takes the extra damage, and the cycle repeats. So
yeah, you have advantage until you hit, is I think the idea.
Yeah,
I could see you playing around with the mechanic of using 1 charge when you hit to give out less damage, or using, like, it's almost like a multiplier. Like, it's like you can expend 1 I'm just spitballing here, but you can expend 1 charge for like 1d6, 2 charges for 3d6, 3 charges for
No,
Five.
I honestly like the idea that it charges up and you expend all the charges. I think
Yeah, cool.
that's super elegant. It feels like a Mega Man Buster Cannon sort of thing. It you know and maybe yeah, you can expend the charges early, but I like the idea that you have to get to three charges and then the cycle repeats. Like even the
Yeah,
designer
yeah.
said, like I like the cycle to it, right?
Same.
You
Cool.
you could opt to say that once the weapon has those three charges, that because as it's currently worded, it's not optional, right? When the weapon gets to three charges, it fully charges up, and then that's it. And you have to use it on the next attack. You
Hmm.
could reword it so that once it gets to three charges, you have to decide to like fire the charges, and then that grants you advantage on the attack. And if that attack hits, it does the extra damage. But I do like the way that it's worded now, in that you can never waste the build up. And I think that's a
Yeah.
really that's an interesting notion about this weapon, is that is that you're never going to be in a situation where you don't get the benefit from the charges. You might miss, but the advantage is actually like giving you, like, encouraging that to
Well,
come out. Yeah.
the only time that it would be missed is if you don't hit again for the rest of combat, and then after a minute, the charges disappear. But that's fair, I
Hmm.
think. I mean, if you don't hit for the rest of the combat, then that's a sad day anyway. So
Yeah.
I guess get better luck
Yeah.
next time.
I also
Um,
agree with Glamour Moth that instead of 46, it should be 3d8, because it feels appropriate for three charges, one d8 for each charge.
oh, Mister, I love rolling d6s, switching it up for some d8s.
I mean, yeah, we could like, I mean, the interesting thing about this weapon, from a strict balance perspective, okay,
Okay,
is it's really just a weapon that does an extra 1d6 lightning damage on a hit.
but you just charge it up and
Yeah.
expend it all at once.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right? So
we we could play with a higher rarity version of this that also, when it has three charges, you like can cast the lightning bolt spell out of it using those three charges. Or
that
like,
that could be cool too. That, yeah, when it builds up to three charges, yeah.
I think either way, they're like, I love the design, and it has me thinking of like other types of weapons that you could design that build up charges.
That could, what actually could be fun is if it built up charges, and then the next attack you stab someone with a trident, and the lightning bolt shoots through them and out back through them. So you get the damage of the attack on the target, the lightning bolt comes out of them and then shoots outward. I could even imagine an Uber version of this weapon where it's chain lightning. So like it builds
Yeah.
up and it's just like boom, zap.
Yeah. So like there are different iterations of this same idea. I don't want to like, the
Hmm.
design here is great. I love it as is. Needs some rewording and maybe some fine tuning. You don't have to throw on the spell
Yeah.
ideas. That's just extra, just us riffing. But
Yeah.
if I was designing this version as presented is the one for like melee characters. But even giving a melee character lightning bolt is pretty cool.
Hmm.
Um, but I could see a spellcaster with like a staff that, if that they can charge up. Actually, just the idea of, instead of, okay, I just like the idea of staves that for spellcasters, that instead of having like 15 charges and they use charges and then they replenish charges every day at dawn, it's at zero charges, but as you cast spells or whatever, it
Mm.
gains charges, and then you can use those charges to cast other. I don't know. There's a really cool design idea here with,
Yeah.
instead of stabs losing charges, they gain charges
Yeah.
by doing something.
I like this one. It's a really cool concept, and I think that um, you could iterate it on it further, to really get something quite interesting. Shall we move along to the next item?
Sure. So, this one.
Oh, this
Uh,
one.
Oh, this one.
this one. Okay. All right. What's it?
If I have them in the right order, I'm pretty sure I do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. We got two over here. Yeah.
this is from Cosmolol.
Cosmology.
Is it
Cosmology.
just cos?
I think
I
so.
think it's cosmology, or maybe I'm just dumb and saying
No,
it.
it's
Anyway,
just cosmology. Yeah, it
yeah,
is
okay.
cosmology. Okay. Hope we're saying that right. This is the bag of olding.
I'm, okay, the reason why this made the list is because of how much I laughed during reading
Yes.
this item.
Yeah.
First of all, it's a fanny pack. Okay. All right. We got that image in our head. It's a small black purse decorated on the outside with gold and silver buttons worn around the waist like a fanny pack. You can use a bonus action to open the bag once per day. The effect of opening it is found by rolling a d20 on the following table. Notice that every option ends in olding. That's the important part here.
So
So
we got bolding. Okay, so first of all, uh, we'll come to this after we get through it. We got bolding, beholding, holding, folding, golding to pull 300 gold out of the bag, nolding. A knoll pops out of the bag and it acts under your control. You have to give it a name. Holding. You may ask the DM one question, as in the spell commune. However, you are placed on hold for 5 minutes and must listen to music of the chosen by the DM for the duration. The default is Spanish Flea. Lolding. I think that's lol, as in LOL. Lol. You can cast hideous laughter on a target with a DC 17 save. Molding. Blast of toxin. Olding, you appear 50 years older till the end of the day. Polding, 20-foot pole. Rolding, you gain advantage on your next roll. I like that.
good.
Solding, shop prices are halved. I don't know how that one. Scolding, you can cast Vicious Mockery. That's funny. Smolding, your size is small. Oh, small. It's like
Small.
small. Okay,
Small.
smolding.
Small.
Yeah.
Smalding.
Scrolling, you
Scrolding?
pull out a spell scroll. Swolding,
Swolding is amazing.
yeah,
That's great.
swole, yeah.
Plus 3D of strength.
Stolding, tolding, and
And
trollding.
um, okay. Is this an item that I would publish? No. Is it an item that I could see using in my home games? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
this is okay. My only notes: the natural 1 and the natural 20. The 20 needs to be the coolest, like the lucky thing, and the 1 needs to be the unlucky thing. So to my feedback to the designer, quite simply, is the natural 1 needs to be the thing that sucks the most, and the natural 20 has to be the most awesome of all these things.
I think that's it. But
Yeah.
otherwise, okay. This is obviously an item designed for its only purpose is fun shenanigans. Uh, is it balanced?
No, I mean, it's totally like I don't even know under what circumstances. Like, would you want to open this bag in the middle of combat? You might get something that helps you. You might not. Like it's like a wand of wonder turned up to 11.
So I was just going to say, speaking of the Wand of Wonder, I know a very specific player, one of our friends, Josh, who would love this item. But he's a player that got the Wand of Wonder and ended up almost killing us more times than actually helping us with the Wand of
Mm-hmm.
Wonder. It's he's notorious for getting items, wanting items that are completely random. He's the one who loves the deck of many things. The rest of us hate it, but Josh loves the deck of many
Yeah.
things. This feels like not nearly as dangerous as the deck of many things, but it is a wild magic table, so to speak.
It is. I think that my only like constructive feedback on it, right, is if you imagine this being an item that the player opens in combat, you might want to go through and so as an example, um the swolding effect is +3 strength. You might change that and say it's enlarge reduce and you're in, or like it is enhance ability for strength or something like make it a little bit more of a combat friendly thing to happen to you, because +3 strength as an effect that is temporary is a weird thing to have to factor into your character sheet if you're opening this thing in the middle of combat. So you just might want to go through some of the entries and be like, all right, make sure that this is something that would not be problematic, like, because this is already going to cause problems. This is an item that is about causing problems. And so the only thing you want to do is make sure that it doesn't cause bookkeeping problems in the middle of combat. You want every item in it to be easy to adjudicate so that the effect is the spotlight and not the, oh man, +3 strength. Well, my strength is 18, so my strength goes to 21, but your strength would have been like all that kind of stuff. That's the only thing with it, right?
My other note, and maybe this is completely okay, because when we think of this item as a wild card, which it is, maybe it's fine that this is the case. That being said, here's my note. Feel free to ignore it. Whether or not I should be opening this up once per day in combat or out of combat is completely also a chance, because there's a chance I open it in combat and I get something like, what is it? There was one that I was looking at. Like, I guess if I'm in combat and I want, oh, what was it? A bonus to my initiative, the first number 1. So I'm already in combat.
Yeah.
And I become immune to the frightened condition and get +5 to initiative. Well, does that apply when I've already rolled initiative?
No, it wouldn't be able to. So it wouldn't change you in the initiative order.
So if I roll a 1 and I'm already in combat, then I'm like, man, I wish I had opened this outside of combat. But if I roll, you can cast Hideous Laughter on a target with a DC 17 save, I want to be in combat for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like it's already a random bag. I already have 20 options. I have no idea what I'm going to get. But the added randomness of being unsure whether I should use this in or out of combat might be difficult to actually get any sort of useful benefit. I would make either everything useful or not useful but something that can apply to combat, or something that you would want to do out of combat. And I would go all or nothing in one of those directions. You can leave some of the stuff in here, obviously. Like if we were imagining that this was outside of combat, you could still get a troll or a knoll.
Yeah. But like,
or a 20-foot pole.
Yeah,
rhymes.
and that would all be great. On the flip side, right? Imagine being in combat and get holding. The holding result, right? Like what is that doing for us, right? And one of,
I mean, a little Spanish flea starts.
I know,
and
then after combat you can ask a question, which is kind of fun. I also think that the folding one, you need to specify how it targets, right? Like, so if you're cleaning this item up, right, you need to figure out, like, when I open the bag, do I see what's in there and now I choose the target, or do I have to choose a potential target before I open the bag? Right? Like, how does that sequence work? And like, if I don't like, and because there's certainly, like, with the deck of many things, there's something about, you open the bag, you get your result and you have to commit to it. But there's all these like targeting things that are sometimes can be tricky with items like this. We ran into this when we were designing the arcane anomalies for Drakkenheim, where the targeting decision is a little bit of an awkward thing. And it's like, you're getting the random result, but like, does folding, if I get the folding result, does that fold me? Does that fold my ally? Does that fold my enemy? Who chooses? And when do they choose? And how? Right? That's the one thing you have to watch out for with items like this.
I could also, I think some wording could be cleaned up here just to make everything specifically mechanically accurate.
Yeah.
I also think that with my previous point, if you did go the way of making it all or nothing in one of those directions, you could have your bag of olding and then your like Swiss Army bag of olding, which is for combat specific olding, um, or whatever. But you could make two items out of that, one that's
Yeah.
like combat focused and one that's not combat focused. But in general, the randomness, I love random
I
tables.
love the joke. The joke is also just great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, all in all, good job. This is, I mean, obviously we cracked up reading this the
Yeah.
first time, and we cracked up again reading it now. It's just brilliant. It obviously
Really, really excellent.
it's super fun. So
Yeah.
good job.
Okay. So next up, I believe we have from Melon Bread.
I love melon bread. I actually don't know what have I ever had melon bread?
Yeah.
Um,
So Melon Bread sent us a feat and a magic item that kind of go together. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, and I think they're both simple enough that we can talk about both of them together.
Yeah.
So the feat is Slinger. Pretty straightforward. The sling, while often overlooked as a deadly weapon in the hands of a master, you have trained with slings exhaustively to bring out their true potential, granting you the following benefits. All slings now use at 1d12 as their damage die, and
Oof.
the range is doubled.
Okay.
Being within 5 feet of a hostile creature doesn't impose disadvantage on your ranged attack rolls. When you score a critical hit on a creature with a sling, their speed is halved until the end of the next turn. Then we also have this magic item, the Sling of Colossus Slaying. You gain +2 to attack and damage rolls with this magic weapon, which extends these properties to its ammunition when in use. When you use the sling to attack a creature 2 sizes or more larger than you, you score a critical hit on a 19 or 20. Here are my notes. First, the reason why we picked this is I specifically love people who attempt to create items or feats that fill an existing hole in D&D 5e. Slings are a cool item. This is similar to the whip argument where it's like, if your fantasy is to use a sling, then why doesn't D&D 5e give you the option to make that viable rather than being like, okay, your fantasy is to use a sling, but you're going to be significantly weaker than everybody else who's using swords and axes and spells. So this actually, I like this because you're saying, let's make slings viable. I think the feat is great. I think the magic item could use a little more jus, so to speak.
Yeah.
I feel like for a very rare magic item, yeah, it's +2. Cool. Crits on a 19 or 20 against larger targets. I get that. I get the theme here is David versus Goliath. I get that because David defeats Goliath with a sling.
Yes. I think okay. Just to like open a few things up for discussion here. Focus. A sling doing talk to the hand. A sling doing D12 damage does make it more damage than a longbow, but at a shorter range. Seems fine. This does mean that could you combine it with sharpshooter? Default range for a sling.
I'm sure I can pull that up in a second here. Sling. 3120.
Okay. So if we double it, it now has a range of 60 to 40. What is the range of a hand crossbow?
Hand crossbow, 3120.
Okay. So we now have a weapon. Now I believe that you have with crossbow expert you ignore the long range penalty for crossbows. That's what it does. So it makes your crossbow range 120 feet basically. So okay.
Yeah.
So So it's not better than Crossbow Expert, but it's still the best option. Like, it's still one of the better options for ranged attackers that isn't using up your bonus action. I mean, seems fine for a feat, right? Because ultimately, for a feat, you're taking a feat to basically just have to bump your longbow from a D8 to a D12, but give up a shorter range. And one of the things that's like I find is worth bearing in mind is that the average damage difference between a D8 and a D12 is 2. So it's 2 extra damage for a feat, right? Maybe 4 if you got 2 attacks. But it is a pretty good all-in-one feat to combine, and then combine with sharpshooter.
It does. This feat reminds me of like a mixture of like crossbow expert, but also like we got like smasher or crusher, slasher, piercer. It kind of has that vibe going on. I also like. I think our creators in the chat here, um, and they mentioned they chose the D12 basically just because it's shaped like a sling rock. I love that.
It's sharpshooter that is the max range thing. So you combine with it with sharpshooter, and actually you're hucking sling rocks 240 feet, which apparently someone else mentioned isn't unrealistic. Like, apparently slings can actually have a pretty impressive range, and like they are kind of like bullets. Like, those, like it I don't like, it can still kill you dead. You know what I mean? Like, a sling is not a not deadly weapon by any stretch of the imagination. So I just don't know what the speed halved thing is doing. Like, when I imagine shooting a sling, I imagine like clocking someone in the head with it, and like, you know
I
what I
would
mean?
I would say if you crit and they don't die, you knock them prone. It still has their
Yeah,
speed
that might.
because they have to use half their
Yes.
movement to get
Yeah.
up. So you're still having their speed, but the fact that you're knocking
Yes.
somebody in the head with a rock and they just fall to
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
ground,
that's actually
you
cool. Yeah.
you accomplish the same thing plus a little bit extra. I would knock them prone.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know about you, but if you've ever been hit in the head with something hard, I go
Oh,
down.
yeah. Now, the Sling of Colossus Slang, I gotta say, you can go further for a very rare magic item.
What if it stuns the target
I
if you crit?
I think with the Sling of Colossus Slang, well, because it says when you use the sling to attack a creature 2 sizes or more larger than you, you score a critical hit on a 19 or 20. So, strictly speaking, that benefit only happens on 5% of the attacks that you make with this weapon. And so there's actually a very good chance that you could be fighting a huge creature and never roll a 19 in the entire combat against them. And thus, this was just a +2 weapon, that whole combat. So I feel like my feedback here is I want a sling that feels like that David and Goliath moment. I want a sling that feels like I am making that fateful shot against a gigantic creature and taking them out, right? Like, I would even say that, like, you could have some sort of benefit here that it could be like a Dragon Slayer weapon where it does more damage to huge and gargantuan creatures straight up, but that might be too much of a blanket benefit because there's a lot of huge and gargantuan creatures. It could be a case where it it does stun them, because that's another thing that I think the giant slaying weapon also does. Or maybe that is the thunder hammer thing.
This is spitballing here, but what if we okay, you're medium. What if each size larger, like included on top of some of these other ideas we're talking about, but each size you go up, the crit range widens. So it's like one size larger than you is 19 to 20. Two sizes larger than you is 18 to 20. Three sizes larger than you, 17 to 20.
Can,
I don't know.
can I actually be totally honest?
Yeah.
I feel like this is a benefit that that in a lot of players' cases they're gonna forget because their crit range is a temporary, like, already players with expanded crit ranges sometimes forget that that happens. And if as a
It's
player
true.
I have to remember that now I crit on it, like, I would want to, but I do wonder. I feel like I want something in a magic item that it's very clear when it works, and
Hmm.
I don't have to, especially because other if it's going to be a very rare item, it doesn't require attunement, which is actually fine in this case, I think. But I just wonder, my feedback here is maybe I would take another crack at it, and for a weapon that is Colossus slaying, like, give us a little more gumption would be my feedback here.
I feel like you're implying that players forget their abilities from time to time, and
They
that just seems ridiculous to
no,
me.
they you know they do all the time.
I've never forgotten an ability or a rule during gameplay. I don't like what I know them all the time. Never miss one. Um, yeah, I think that there are some ideas to go on, but for a very rare item, I would bump this up a little bit
Yeah.
in some of those areas. I can see many different ways to go, but yeah, I think slings are cool,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
I like it.
I also think that my other feedback would be instead of saying a creature two sizes more larger than you, I would just say huge or gargantuan creatures. And that way it's unambiguous, like it's a colossus. You don't end up in that weird situation where a small creature is suddenly able to gain this benefit against large creatures. Just make it huge and gargantuan.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Or a tiny creature is able to get the benefit against a medium-sized creature. I don't think a medium-sized creature is a colossus in my
When you
mind. Yeah,
play when you play as a fairy, are they tiny creatures?
I think they are.
I've never played as a fairy.
You should try it
Maybe I
sometime.
should. Monty, would you allow that in your games?
I mean, I could run a campaign where everyone plays like fae and fairy
No,
creatures.
not everybody. I want to be somebody's fairy companion.
As long as
I
someone
want to
else.
be the Tinkerbell to somebody else's Peter Pan.
All right, ask Joe and Jill about it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
No, fairies are small.
Oh,
How
they,
big
they
are those fairies?
it's a big fairy.
Yeah, fairies. I disagree.
Liam Kessler also notes that a large reduce could be combined with this. So you could cast reduce on yourself.
Everybody's correcting me. Fairies are small. I disagree. They aren't. They are tiny. I don't care what the rules say.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't convince me otherwise. Go watch Ferngully. It's a great movie. And if more people watched Ferngully, the world would be a better place.
It is a good
That has
movie.
nothing to do with it. Yeah, Ferngully's amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
should we move on?
We shall. We shall. So what do we got here?
Oh, this is the who submitted this? This is Nemanev. Nemanev. Nemanev.
The main.
I hope I said that right. Potion Master and Belt of Potion Juggling. Are we doing both, or are we just doing one of these?
I feel like we can talk about both of them a little bit.
Okay.
I was mostly interested in the belt of potion juggling myself.
Me too.
The first thing though that I do like about the Potion Master feat is the splitting the potions. The diluted potion.
Yeah.
Right?
Should we kind of say so? The vibe here is this requires proficiency with a herbalism kit or alchemist supplies. Already love that. That's kind of what our tool feats are implying. You learn to perfect making and using potions, so you gain advantage on attack rolls made to throw or pour contents of small liquid containers. For example, holy water, alchemist fire, oil, etc. Whenever you use a potion that needs to roll dice for potency, I'm thinking healing potions, you get to treat it as if you rolled maximum. And as part of a long or short rest, you may attempt to split the contents of a potion in two. So you make a dexterity check using your herbalism or alchemist supplies. If you succeed, you now have 2 half doses that work as the original potion. If you fail, though, the potion is wasted. You may not repeat this process on a half dose. So, and then it gives you the DC based on the rarity. So, yeah, I like the idea of splitting potions. It's a bit of a
Yeah.
gamble. It's like you can get 2 potions or you can lose your potion. What are you going to risk that? And I like that. I like that risk reward. I think generally this is a pretty straightforward and cool idea.
Yeah.
Um,
I could see not having the ability check on it, but I get that the ability check is fun. You know what I mean? Like I could see a version of this feat that was balanced where it just let you split the potion, like dilute the potion and get a 2-for-1 on your potions once per day. That actually seems kind of fine to me. And the idea that a potion can only be split once anyways, it seems like it actually feels like for a feat, and for the fact that you're taking a consumable item that you might not reliably have more and just getting 1 extra of it. Like the dungeon master was willing to give you 1, so it's probably okay to have 2. Although and that it can't be used on legendary potions is actually a good restriction, because then it gives the dungeon master an out to be like, this potion is too special to do this with. So I feel like but I get that the ability check component is thematic. But
mhm, mhm.
yeah.
I do think it's pretty cool that you could like double up your potion of heroism or your potion of invisibility or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
it is worth noting though that like it's probably easy enough to like with these DCs 13, 18, 25, 28. Like if it matters, I feel like
yeah, if you're doing this during a short rest, people in chat were saying like you could stack on a few things to make sure that you
yeah.
get the 2 potions. Like, I don't know, throw some
I
guidance.
could just see it being a guarantee, and that's where I think with playtesting that would be the thing, is like just find out, is it just irritating to have to make the check, or do the players in practice almost always succeed? Because I think that's the other thing. The flip side is that the potion is wasted if you fail the check, so that kind of sucks, right? And I feel
And taking a whole feat around the gamble, like I
yeah.
love a gamble, but taking a whole feat for a gamble is
Yeah,
tough. I
yes,
mean, you're not. That's not the whole feat. There are the other elements as well.
but it does feel like the meat of the feet, and
Yeah,
for
the
me,
feet meat.
the feet meat,
Gross.
tender, um, yeah, gross. So I feel like, yeah, like maybe it's not wasted. Like maybe if it's just that the other dose just doesn't work, and like you salvage the materials, and that's it, right?
Yeah. Now, what I do love here is this wondrous item,
The belt
rare
of
wondrous item.
potion juggling.
Yeah, this belt carries a magic pouch that allows you to carry up to 20 potions or small liquid containers. It also has 2 pockets for easy access that are magically fit to carry any small liquid container. As a bonus action, you may use one of the potions or containers in one of the pockets. The empty pocket can be automatically occupied with a potion or container from the magic pouch of your choosing. As an action, you may magically launch the contents of one or 2 of the pockets to a creature within 60 feet. Each target must accept the effects of the item launched to them or make a dexterity saving throw to entirely avoid them. An unconscious target automatically fails to save. The effects of the item launched are applied as specified in their description, or if not possible, at the DM's discretion. The empty pocket can be automatically occupied with a potion or container from a magic pouch of your choosing. Once you use this feature, you cannot use it again until the next dawn. There's some wording cleanup that I would do here,
Yeah,
but generally, I like the idea that you're just hucking potions at people. You know what? Okay. Do you know? Okay. Okay. Spare the dying, not the best cantrip, but there are certain subclasses that can use Spare the Dying at range,
Yeah.
and it becomes really useful. The ability to whip a healing potion at your downed ally from 60 feet away is incredible.
So I had slightly different mental images with this item.
Okay. Are you going vicious
No,
on
I'm
this?
going kind of comedic. First, the first half of this item is an item that lets you drink your own potions as a bonus action. And whenever I think of that, I think of the adventurer with like the foam dome with the potion vials on the side of it and the straw coming down.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the, yeah, you
Right.
got
But then I also think of the syringe launcher. Right? So like it you put a healing potion in a syringe that you shoot your allies.
you know how like I would thank them for saving me, but I'd be so mad that I got shot with a syringe. It just feels really it's like invisibility. Ow.
Yeah.
But I do think the implications here are fun. What gets scary though is okay. The way that this is implied, because of earlier statements, small liquid container includes alchemist fire. So does this mean that I can cause an enemy to ingest alchemist fire? And then what happens?
I don't think it's any more or less powerful than just shooting them with like throwing an acid vial or like this is something where I feel like probably the item just needs a little bit more delineation. So for example, like I would say that with this item, specify what happens when alchemist fire or acid is launched using it, and specify what happens when it is a beneficial potion, right? And I think that you could almost basically use the wording of saying that like the potion is administered as if drank, right? And you'd be fine with that. Yeah. How would I rule drinking alchemist fire? The same way I would rule getting attacked with it, right? You take,
That's
yeah,
fair.
right.
I do like shooting syringes of holy water at like vampires or whatever. Maybe not.
Yeah, there does need to be a condition to resist it, and I guess that's where it begs the question of like if you're shooting a it could very well be that you roll to hit, right? That's the way you get around it. That you have to actually roll to hit instead of a dexterity saving throw, and a roll to hit might be a little better way of scaling it depending on who's
Mhm.
using the item. Um, yeah, instead of a saving throw, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Either way,
yeah.
pretty cool. I love lobbing potions.
Combine the sling
Next,
feet. Combine this and the sling feet, and you could can you shoot the? Is it a sling? A slingshot that shoots potions?
we now have a syringe sling that we can load with potions and launch 240 feet. Um, oh man, can you get like a vial of poison? I guess like okay, you could get like a vial of like that drow poison that knocks people unconscious and like fire it at enemies from 240 feet away. That's a tactic.
That would be a strategy. Yeah.
Next up, are we
Okay.
moving on? Are we
Yeah.
good?
Yeah. So
Megan Elnico created three. These are feats, I
yeah,
believe.
the three feats, they're all similar. Um and Megan's actually specified um do they need to be three different feats or could they be separate feats? And the bottom line of all of these feats is you choose a class and an ability score. And the chosen class now uses that ability score for its spellcasting trait.
I think this is pretty cool, and I think it could be one feat.
I do think that there is a way to make it one feat.
I
Um,
think that it's just like you may choose your like basically if there's just a feat that says you may choose your what ability score your spellcasting is, like that gets you there.
mhm.
Um, are there any dangers with being able to change your spellcasting ability? Are there any like broken combinations that you can think of? I feel like there's something.
Probably. Okay. So there's a few. The most broken thing is probably that it means that everybody can switch their casting stat to charisma and then take a level of warlock.
Well, so I was going to say where this gets really broken is multi-classing, and I think even
Yeah.
chat's chiming in on that. Um, yeah, playing something like a Hexblade Wizard now is viable if I change my wizard spellcasting to charisma.
Here's what I would do. Here's one way around that. You can only take these feats at first level. Or well, that yeah, but okay, but that which works if you're using the 1 D&D rules.
Yeah,
And it must be the class that you took at first level that changes changes that to the chosen stat.
it's
Does
still.
that does that does that rein it in a little, make it a little more restrictive?
I still feel like I could multi-class into Hexblade, change my stuff to charisma. Like I feel like no matter what, I'm changing my stuff to charisma. Um, or
I
I guess you could.
see, like I don't know if the warlock breaks if you change its casting stat to intelligence. I actually don't know if it does. I feel like Hexblade
Could,
does fall
can
apart.
you can so I'm only thinking of intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, but somebody just mentioned Belt of Storm Giant Strength as casting with a 29, and it didn't even occur to me that I could be playing an Eldritch Knight.
Yeah, no, I think it's very clear that you can't choose strength, constitution, or dexterity here. I
Yeah.
misspoke here. No, you're not going to get to cast with strength. It has to be one of the existing spellcasting stats.
But I want my paladin to use strength, and then I don't have to worry about my charisma.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I apologize, Chet. I thought that the mental stats thing was implied. But I should have, because the way the Megan designed these feats was all around the mental stats already. So,
Yeah. Mental
um,
stats only.
yeah, I think that um, I feel like there needs to be something, because like if multi-classing is set aside, right? An intelligent
Then this is cool.
it's total. If multi-classing is set aside, I don't feel like you need a feat. Like you just can, like I feel like if you weren't multi-classing, you could change the ability score of any spellcasting class, and it would probably be fine.
Yeah.
It's only when multi-classing enters the picture that it becomes a problem. And this is actually where I think we said this in a recent video, where the shadow of the multi-classing system hangs over every design in 5th edition. And
It's so hard
yeah,
to deal
yeah,
with. Because anytime you make anything, it's like,
yeah,
oh,
um,
well, I could
yeah.
multiclass to break that.
And
And it's like, oh, great.
I'm going to diverge and just give a mention to chat. So chat and anyone watching, I am working on several more classes, and one of the class features of the classes that I am working on for 5th edition are that you cannot multi-class with them. And because I've been thinking about this so much lately, it's like this class very specifically says it has a feature called dedication, and if you take this class, you can only take it at first level. You cannot multi-class with it. And as soon as I put that in as a feature, I was like, oh, now I don't have to worry about someone multi-classing this with this anymore, because I can do cool things with this class now, because
It
you
obviously it opens up the sandbox so much.
yeah.
The moment you put that in, your headache goes away, and you're just like, I can create whatever's awesome.
Hmm.
and without somebody being like, oh, but if
Yeah.
I take 2 levels of your new class and combine it with this other thing, it's the most broken thing in the world. And it's like, ugh,
Yeah.
why? That's not what I wanted to design. I wanted to design
Yeah.
something cool in and of itself. I think that should just be a new feature. I would be okay if multiclassing wasn't a thing. I get it. I
I
get
do.
why it exists, but honestly, I don't generally multiclass very often, and it's hard to design for.
I I think that I doubt that. Yeah, I don't know if you can fix multi-class cheese in a system that allows you to choose level by level like that. I think that the fundamental ability to it's not just about the multi-class cheese. It's about the fact that it's hard to give a class its coolest defining ability at low levels when you can grab it with only a 3 level investment in that class. And so it's a weird sort of thing.
What Pathfinder players in the chat, you just love every time that we say anything, being like, yeah,
Well,
Pathfinder.
multiclassing wasn't a thing in fourth edition either. It,
Yeah.
it, it, it wasn't. And the way fourth edition handled it was that you had feats that let you gain abilities from other classes that you could take. And and I'm pretty sure that's the design that Pathfinder second edition uses, and it's a pretty decent design. Um at, right? So like I mean, you can't Pathfinder can't take credit for that because fourth edition did it.
I just feel like anytime I open my mouth, I'm like, what
Yeah.
if D&D did and somebody's there like play Pathfinder
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm trying
Yeah.
it. Okay.
I
It's all right. It's pretty
I
good.
will say like and no joke like there's a lot in Pathfinder second edition that is like, what if we took all the good ideas from fourth edition and actually developed them a little bit more, instead of throwing them out, which is a high compliment because right. So
Back to these feats though. What other advice do we have? Um yes, they could be made one feat. We need to be aware of multi-classing.
yeah, and there's also a level progression problem with it. You know what I mean? Because the let's say that you want to multi-class wizard and warlock.
Mhm.
When do you take this feat? Because like you play a variant human and take it at first level, problem solved.
But if you're not playing a variant human,
Yeah.
um, yeah, because
Yeah.
if you're designing around the idea of switching your
Mm-hmm.
your spellcasting ability, are you just going to suffer your
Well,
build concept until you get this feat?
exactly. Right. Um, like? How are you gonna? When are you gonna take it? Right. Like, let's just take it to the nth degree. Let's say that what I want to do is I want to play a blade singer wizard that takes
Hmm.
well even then actually because the interesting thing about this is that these feats change your spell casting stat and
But
they
they don't change your abilities.
yeah and they don't change the other thing. So like the thing is if you want to multi-class to hexblade you have to change the stat to charisma, but then you end up with a pretty weak blade song. So there's that, but then you end up with charisma based wizard spell casting.
It's tough because I feel like the design intent here
Mm.
is to like everybody who ever said, hey, I wish I could play a warlock that uses intelligence, or I wish I could play a monk that uses I mean, monk doesn't use spellcasting, but like even that, it's like the vibe of like, I wish I could play X, but focus on this ability stat
Yeah.
instead. I think that's what we're trying to solve here. The problem is that D&D, it takes a lot of work
Yeah.
to rip those roots out. Um, I don't think that this is a bad 3 feats, and I don't think it's a bad idea. What the reason why we picked it is because I love the freedom
I
that this is trying to give
I do too.
players.
I really think that these feats will work best as first level feats for one, like in a game where you can take an extra feat at first level, and you have to take one of these at first level, and it has to be the class that you took as first level. And then that little restriction plus the other problems in there might clean it up a little bit, and then could fix the wording. That right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess the thing with any of this is like, is the question is like, talk to your DM. Like, will your DM just let you switch your stat, right? And sometimes the existence of a feat like this can be a useful guideline to a dungeon master of what the value of being able to do this is, right? So to give another example, when we were developing the purge contamination effects, right? Part of the reason why for Drakenheim, when we created the spell Contamination Immunity, and we made that an 8th level spell, part of the reason why Contamination Immunity exists as a spell is to tell you how powerful immunity to contamination is as an effect in the game according to our intent, right? And so sometimes a game mechanic is more than just a talk to your DM thing. It's about signaling to the dungeon master, okay, this is a balanced way to approach this alteration or this homebrew rule. So I like, yeah, it is one of those things that I feel like if I had a player that was like not going to abuse multi-classing and wanted to change their casting stat, I would probably just say yes, you don't need to take a feat. But it'd be interesting to see more how that could be integrated into the system.
I agree.
Yep.
As we move on, we have Glamour Moth.
Okay. Let me pull up, and Glamour Moth is in chat with us too. Good stuff. Let's.
Double, toil and trouble.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. I just got to open it up. Give me a sec.
Cool. That's all you get. That's all I'm going to read. Hi, Glamour Moth. Thanks for your submission.
I just need to actually. For some reason, it wasn't in my tabs that I had open.
Monty. I know.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You let me down.
Okay. Here it is.
No short rest for you today.
Double, toil and trouble. +1 wisdom. I just like. I love the shorthand. Like, it's like, I understand you don't need to put in all the wording around it. +1 wisdom, I get it. It's a half feat. Okay. This is a very meaty half feat. You've learned the art of preparing the viscera of your enemies, the blood of your veins, and the tears of your lovers into a witch's brew. I like the flavor. After each long...
You love the flavor of people of the tears of your lovers?
Actually, no, that's mean.
Or the blood in your veins? Or the...
You made me bleed my own blood.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
After each long rest, you spend an hour creating a brew, causing one of the options below. The brew remains potent for 24 hours. Okay.
So you can either create Maiden's Fury, Mother's Arms, or Crone's Crown. I like the names. The flavor and theme here, great.
So you like the flavor too?
Yes.
Okay.
I love the flavor of blood and tears.
Volatile Expressions of the Youngster. Choose a single evocation spell of a level equal to or lower than your proficiency bonus. The spell must have a casting time of 1 action and not require concentration. You imbue the potion with the power of the spell. If the spell has a range of self, you can drink the potion as an action to cast the spell. Otherwise, the range of the spell changes to 60 feet, and you can throw the potion as an action and cast the spell. Casting the spell in this way does not require a spell slot. That's pretty strong. Okay. Mother's Arms. The bomb invokes the safety of the mother's embrace. As an action, the bomb can be applied to a creature. The creature that receives it becomes immune to being charmed or frightened, and any damage they take from non-magical attacks is reduced by 3 for 1 minute. And the Crone's Crown, it It sharpens your understanding and transfers the experience of many ordeals crones have faced to you. You can drink the potion as action. For 1 hour, your mind is sharpened. You have advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and ability checks, and you can cast legend lore once.
You know what's interesting? So when I read this feat, first of all, I love the design. I love the flavor. I actually wish that this was attached to like a witch subclass.
Well, Glamourmouth actually asks this. This is the longest feat in the whole game. Is this a subclass feature? I, f-
I
I
I feel like we have like a warlock witch patron vibe. Like I don't know, I
Yeah.
would go warlock because warlocks and witches, but you could also go like either way, subclass. This feels like the like meaty ability of a witch subclass.
Yeah, I like it.
Um
It's a lot for a feat. It is a lot for a feat, especially a feat that is going to give you access to level 6 spells potentially, and I think one of the issues here is that it's going to get you access to legend lore at a very low level of play, right? Which could be
if I'm a variant human, I can get this at
yeah,
first level.
yeah,
And
right,
then I'm that yeah. Um so as it might not be a feat, but it's still really cool design concepts here.
hmm
Um, I something that I don't know if I say very often, but I love witches. I think witches are cool. I love the lore of witches, both real life and fantastical. I just think that like Wiccan
hmm
and witchcraft and all of that is just like just neat.
yeah,
And so I really like what's going on here. The flavor is superb. The theme's superb. And I've been wanting to design a witch class or subclass for a very long time. I'm surprised it didn't make it into Sebastian Crow's Guide to Drakenheim, but
mm,
um, and so now when I do design that subclass, I need to not use your idea
yeah.
because you created that.
Um,
But I love what you got going on here.
Glamour, I like the idea of it having three subclasses as maiden, mother, and crone. I also really like the idea of being able to shift the between those aspects, because there's an interesting triparate thing. You know,
The three, the
yeah,
three, the
yeah,
coven, the three.
yeah. Well,
Um,
because that's like a cool idea that like that like the witch's coven is a daughter, a mother, and a grandmother, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but the tripler aspect of it too is that many women can also be all three of those things, and sometimes they can be those things simultaneously, and sometimes they can be those things at different stages of their life, right? Like depending on where things are. So like it's rich ground for development. I think that it is too much for a feat. Um, I think that you could split this into 3 feats.
I think it's too beautiful as a triplet, and I think
Yeah.
that Glamour Moth, you're 25% of the way to designing your own class or subclass. Because this is the ability that I think like this is your third level ability. Maybe not third level. If you were building this into a subclass, you would need it to build up in an interesting way. Because at third level, you don't want them
Hey,
putting.
you know what? Maybe sub. Okay, just throwing it out there for development. We're a little off of feet. What if the subclasses aren't maiden, mother, and crone? What if um maiden, mother, and crone isn't your subclass choice, but it's like the holy order feature of the class? So what because I could imagine I could imagine a witch class that had like
Mhm.
the bog witch, the mountain witch, right? The like that was maybe associated that had subclasses that were associated with elemental or land based things, but then every witch is, so this is a bog witch crone,
Yeah, no,
Or,
like I would
then
definitely
this is
want you to have access to all
yeah,
three.
but then this is a mountain witch maiden, right?
Yeah.
And so or like yeah, so you could have like the forest witch. I'm just throwing out ideas. Like feel free to like say I'm off base here, but I like the idea because then if you have the reason why is that I like that all witches are tied to that, and that's separate from the subclass, because then it lets you develop a ton of extra subclasses while still having that as the maiden mother crone concept as core to the class as a whole.
I am uh I am now determined to create a witch class or a witch subclass, and Glamour Moth, maybe I'll be in touch to
Mm.
collaborate on that in the future. Um,
I also do love the reference to we were talking about macros every day.
yeah, I love the witches in you have it in my head now, Monty, not to say it out loud, and I feel weird because I didn't care. But now you have me caring about saying I'm just going to call it Mackers now. Um, and I don't love that
Yeah,
because I didn't care. I didn't care earlier
yeah,
today. Why do I care all of a sudden? But yeah,
yeah.
I I love the witches.
Overall, I conceptually, I love all three of these. And let me put it this way: bottom line, if you wanted to continue with this as a feat, I'd break it into 3 feats.
And if you want to
Yeah,
turn it into a subclass or a
yeah.
class, you're on your way.
Other cool thing, if you break it into 3 feats, the maiden could be charisma, the mother could be wisdom, and the crone could be intelligence. Or maybe the mother. I don't know. You could play around with which one you're associating with the stat. Maybe that's again. I'm just throwing out a conceptual idea there, but like that could be an interesting way to work that out.
Somebody in chat is asking why you can't say Macbeth.
Oh, okay. So there is a theater, because I'm a theater person, formerly. You it is bad luck to say the name of the Scottish play in a theater. But of course, the bard himself also wrote "All the world's a stage." Hence, everywhere is a theater. Thus, you should never say the name of the Scottish play unless you are currently performing the Scottish play.
Isn't there some sort of like actual story behind this superstition? Like, didn't somebody die after saying the name of the play, or is that just an old tale that's been
Oh,
passed
I
down?
mean,
I heard
there's old tales of everything. Like theater people are very superstitious.
I think I heard once that like somebody said the name of the play and then like a curtain fell on them and they died or
Yeah,
something, or somebody said the name of a play and then the playhouse caught on fire.
yeah.
These are stories that I've heard, but I don't know if any of them are actually true.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is a superstition. I say Macbeth because I think superstitions are silly. I love superstitions. I think
Can
they're fascinating.
can I
Uh,
say okay? I'm just gonna go off on this. I'm gonna just fully say that as someone who has studied the architecture of theaters, whenever I see a battle map for a theater, I get it's one of those things that affects me because I know the history of theater buildings and I know that like what how theaters have evolved over the course of human history. And so whenever I see fantasy a medieval fantasy theater battle map that has traits that are like only found in modern theaters, it's one of those like my anachronisms. It's one of those things that bugs me, you know.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna. Sorry, we're going off on a tangent here, but just bear with me. This is a thing that I think everybody has, and Monty, you just pointed to yours. You were a theater kid, so the intricate workings of theater stands out to you. But I think so many people design things that are nonsensical to people who work in those environments. And
Mm,
I think everybody has their thing. I was one time playing a video game. I was playing The Division with my buddy who works at a power plant. and there was a mission where we had to go into a power plant and read and turn the power back on. And the whole mission, he wouldn't stop being like, the layout of this place is absolutely asinine. Why would anybody design a power plant like that?
Yeah.
And he just wouldn't stop. I'm like, I'm not even noticing, man. And like, I'm just like, obviously you have to go 10 rooms over to turn off. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, so, and like, it's the same
Yeah. Yeah.
whenever I watch like a show that involves doctors and nurses with my partner who's a nurse. It's always comes up like, why is the doctor always doing the nurse's job and nobody's paying? And like, why is this? And why would they
Yeah.
do that? And
Yeah.
it's just like, if you work in a field, no matter what, if it comes up in some other place, you're like,
Mhm.
why would they do that?
I also love, like, my other favorite kind of like architecture thing is I love fantasy maps of residences that don't have fireplaces. That's the other one that gets me. It's like, okay, so I hope that this was built in a temperate climate, because I've seen several maps of like locations and stuff where it's like the heating, or fantasy maps of locations where there is a fireplace, but there's very clearly no thought to where the chimney is supposed to be.
I mean, when I was designing my first map, I got ripped apart from my rivers because
Oh yeah, the
I didn't think of how.
you gotta the river thing. Oh man,
I know,
yeah.
I know.
I that affects me because I'm really into Satisfactory right now.
I know
I
you
think I've
are.
said, and
You think you've said.
the maps. So the world map in Satisfactory has several rivers that just do not make any sense. Like the water, I just have to like be like, I know the water, like I see it every time I open the map to like plan my next build, and it's like, oh, you can't, you can't. This doesn't make sense. No, the water. But I mean, the map is gorgeous. Not to diss the creators of it, but it's one of those things that like, ooh, gets me.
I agree. In chat, there are hacking scenes in movies. Ridiculous. Nobody, no hacking never works like that. We should move on though.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about the old crones enough. Um, Mike McFadden. Oh, it's this one. This is another. This is another of the ones, I believe. Um, I just want to start off by saying, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, this item is dumb. And not dumb in the sense that it's bad, dumb in the sense that when I think about it, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. So we have the greater immovable rod. This is a rare item. This flat steel rod has a button on one end. You can use an action to press the button, which causes the rod to become magically fixed in place relative to the rest of the universe. This effect lasts 6 seconds. I'm already cracking up. Okay. Since the rod is on a spinning planet rocketing around a star whizzing through a galaxy, when activated, it appears to instantly rocket away in a random direction, leaving a path of destruction in its wake. Any creature object in its path takes 10d10 bludgeoning damage, no attack roll or saving throw required, but the rod passes harmlessly through whomever activated it. The rod is indestructible. To determine the direction of travel, roll a d20 onto a compass rose or battle map. The die face bearing the 20 points in the direction of travel
Okay.
in 3 dimensions. The rod turns itself off after 6 seconds, by which time it is thousands of miles into space or deep below the surface of the planet. For this reason, the rod is generally considered to be single use. This is also why older rods tend to show up in the most unlikely places. I feel like I threw this one in just because it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I don't actually know.
I
Let's talk about
I
it.
like this. I would use this in my game, and in replacement of the actual immovable rod, because this is what an immovable rod should do.
This item is purely made because of the argument that if a immovable rod is truly immovable, what about the movement of planets around it? And I always like that question, but now when we actually think of like how insane the movement through time and space is, the greater immovable rod is just going to destroy so
Okay,
much.
okay. I have a few concerns though. This item.
I have many concerns.
What if I use
Go
this
ahead.
item on another plane of existence where, like the astral plane or the elemental chaos, where I might not actually be on a planet that is moving? Does it just function as a normal immovable rod?
For six
Or
seconds.
what if I'm in a game setting? Like what if we're playing D&D in Discworld, right?
Well, then
We're on a flat.
don't the discs spin?
No, in Discworld the world is flat. So what? Yeah. Well, what if the world and it's on the back of elephants and turtles? It's just turtles all the way down. Um, so then the rod would not necessarily go in a random direction. What about that?
What about that? Um,
Also, like, would it if it goes through the planet? Would it only cause that much damage? Like, could this actually crack the planet, like the crust of the planet apart, based on the speed that it's traveling? I need
it
it.
travels into the center of the planet and the planet explodes.
But like that's my question is like, could this immovable rod, if it's moving at that kind of speed? I guess no, it probably wouldn't destroy the planet.
How
But
fast? How fast do planets move? So this is the problem
yeah,
with this item. This item implies a massive amount of thought put into physics, but not complete thought has been put into
yeah,
physics because now we're asking a lot of scientific questions about how physics apply to certain instances of the use of this item. If we're going to go halfway there with the physics, we need
we
to go
need,
all
yeah,
the way there with the
exactly,
physics.
and so we need to determine, and like, could the center of the planet be hot enough?
67,000 miles per hour on Earth, that's how fast Earth is moving. So this rod moves at 67,000 miles per hour if it's placed. That does more than 10d10 bludgeoning damage.
Yeah, but I feel like it does like instant death damage. You know what I mean? Like,
But is this an actual item that okay, so here's the question. They designed this item. Obviously, I think the item is meant to be a wink wink nudge nudge bit of a joke. Is it okay as it is to get the joke across? Obviously, we don't want to throw full physics in here in like if we were to use this in a game, I wouldn't want to sit there for like 20 minutes to half an hour arguing physics with my table. Um, but how do we make this gameable?
no.
This rod should deal 10d10 times 558. Does this create volcanic activity? Does this destroy other planets? Because of the movement, you place it and you accidentally blow up the moon.
Does it? Could it blow up the moon?
Yeah. The moon's just made of cheese.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
not that hard to
okay.
blow up.
But I I guess the question becomes, how indestructible is a magic item? Because that's the follow-up question, isn't it? Yes, this object is moving very, very fast, but does it just pancake when it, like, is this immovable rod more indestructible than a moon? Right? Does it burn up in the atmosphere? Right? Like, should be, just because it's a magic item, does this mean that it is that indestructible? Because if we're thinking about it, right? The One Ring was destroyed by tossing it into Mount Doom. So if that is our barometer for when a magic item can be destroyed by a natural landmark, ostensibly,
Then it destroys in lava.
yes, ostensibly this would be destroyed by lava, right? So it can't pass through the core of the Earth because it's going to be destroyed before that. It'll be destroyed by the Earth before that. And if it's being accelerated to such like right, and it's not that it's moving, it's that the rest of the universe is moving. So it's not hitting objects, other objects are hitting it.
We need a team of scientists. We need 20 to 30 scientists
So like my answer is,
to design this
can
item.
you use this to knock a planet out of its orbit? My answer is no, you can't. It's destroyed by this would be destroyed by a planet.
Somebody in chat, Ozzy, just mentioned the One Ring couldn't be destroyed by lava. It can only be destroyed in the fires of Mount Doom, which were used to create.
Sure. But the One Ring, isn't the One Ring like, if we're putting magic items on the scale of indestructibility, isn't the One Ring on the most extreme end of indestructibility?
So, yeah, but it could only be destroyed in one specific fire.
Yes, but my argument then is, if that was the only way the One Ring could be destroyed, it should be easier to destroy any item that isn't the One Ring. Right?
I love my job.
And Gandalf...
And I just...
Gandalf...
My job right now is mixing physics and Lord of the Rings.
Gandalf also said...
I've never been happier.
Did Gandalf not speculate that there might have one time been some dragons where their dragon fire was hot enough to destroy it?
Oh, I need to read the books again, man.
I believe Gandalf said that there might have been dragons that would have been hot. I wonder if even there wasn't there some suggestion that even Smaug's fire might have been hot enough to destroy the One Ring?
Smaug's attitude was hot enough.
Oh.
Ooh. I don't know.
So no, my argument here is that this magic item is not an artifact. Okay? It's not.
Oh man,
it's not an artifact. So why should it be more indestructible than the One Ring? That's my argument.
But I think you're making the One Ring out to be more. The One Ring had like the one destruction code. Nothing else. But that dragon fire.
Nothing else. So what I'm saying is the One Ring being like this powerful uber artifact. Why are we letting this magic item ostensibly be more indestructible, saying that it can pass through the core of planets without being destroyed?
You know what couldn't destroy the One Ring? A moon.
So if you're telling me the One Ring is so indestructible that it couldn't survive being hit by a planet,
it would survive. The planet would turn invisible.
What if that planet has Mount Doom on it? Does the One Ring have to be hit by the part of the planet that has Mount Doom on it to be destroyed?
Here's another question. Okay, Mount Doom is a volcano. Volcanoes erupt magma from the lower parts of the Earth. Why is the magma in Mount Doom different than the center of the Earth? What differentiates that magma from center of the Earth magma?
But again, we're distracting ourselves. I'm saying that
I am heavily distracted.
Okay, this is a magic item that is not an artifact. Ergo, it should not be completely indestructible. If the magic item is meant to be so indestructible that it would move through planets without being destroyed, then it's an artifact. And then we should just say as such. But if it's not an artifact, then I think that if it goes through a planet, it gets destroyed. Clearly, if it was an immovable rod, what if it goes through the sun? Obviously, it's going to get destroyed if it goes through the sun, right?
Or the sun explodes.
No, can we at least agree that it would be destroyed if it went through the sun?
I think okay. What are we here to do?
But magic items, but even in the rules of the game, like a magic item is not completely indestructible simply by virtue of being a magic item. Right? Magic items can be damaged and they can be destroyed. So saying that a magic item that can, it's magical, so hence it is completely indestructible, that's ridiculous. Like, no. I would never rule any magic item is simply indestructible because it's a magic item, right? Like I wouldn't uh, any rare magic item that falls into a volcano is destroyed in my books. Can we agree on this?
I can agree that in your books, throwing a magic item in a volcano destroys it.
Yes. Unless it's an artifact. And we can all agree that if a magic item was somehow thrown into the sun, it should be destroyed.
Okay. Point is that this is a single-use magic item that destroys everything in its path in a randomly determined direction. Let's throw away the physics, throw away the analogies of the One Ring. Is this item cool as a single-use item that creates a line of destruction doing 10d10 bludgeoning damage in a random three-dimensional direction? Is there anything you would change to that? Don't worry about the physics.
Wait, does the rod? Oh, the rod is indestructible. It does say in this. I'm actually arguing though. I don't. If you want this rod to be indestructible, it's an artifact. Okay, that's all I'm saying. If this magic item is to be truly indestructible, then it must be an artifact. You can't have a rare magic item that is utterly indestructible. That's too. That yeah. That's my that. There you go.
Okay, so you would change the indestructible nature of it.
Yes, I think if it goes into a star, or it passes through or it comes into contact with lava, it absolutely should be destroyed.
Fair, but as a single-use item in a battle, I mean, generally speaking, I actually don't know if this is a great item. I feel like this is here for a gag, because using it could murder your own players, like could murder your teammates.
Yeah.
It's completely random. You have no control over it. Therefore, this is a very dangerous item to use. I don't know if I would use this over a regular immovable rod.
I do love it. I do love this item, and this is why.
So
And I love the
reason why it's
discussion
on
that
the list.
I love the discussion that we're having because of it. Right, like that.
That is what it made the list, because when we popped it up and read it, we were like, "What?" And then we started talking. And as soon as we started talking, we were like, "Okay, set it aside. Let's save the conversation for the stream." But I like what you're going for here, but I would be terrified giving this to my players. That's all I got. That's my note.
I mean, in strictly speaking, half the time it just flies off into space without even damaging anybody.
True. If you have three-dimensional access, then like
I do.
Yeah,
I actually do have to say, you know what the most clever thing about this magic item is?
rolling a d20
To
and the 20
determines the direction.
determines
That
a
is
three-dimensional
smart.
direction.
Like I just want to
yeah.
say to like to just call out that mechanic alone, like Mike, that is a smart idea. And I just want to acknowledge that that is a cool concept that could be used in other ways.
Cool idea.
Yeah, cool idea.
We should move on. Hope everybody enjoyed our physics Lord of the Rings D&D chat.
Okay.
Bofter Beerbane?
Yes.
That's a dwarven name if I ever heard one.
That is indeed. So, Boftor, we have the SOS Candle.
I think it was the SOS Candle that we wanted to talk about.
The SOS Candle has a wick on both ends. The candle wax is so dark that it seems to absorb the light around it. When you burn the candle at both ends, the wicks flare with a steely purple flame, and the candle hovers in space and gently rotates in a circle. If you light this candle before a short rest, you will gain all the benefits of a long rest. But
beware. Whatever ghastly patron provided those extra hours will take some time for itself with interest. Whoever lights the candle on both ends before a short rest gains the benefits of a long rest. The candle has 3 uses. Roll 1d6 to see how much the target ages upon waking. 1 to 2 is 1 year, 2 to 3 is 2 years, 5 to 6 is 25 years. That's a bit of a jump. So the question that they ask, how should one go about balancing the risk versus the reward? Are the lengths of aging enough to urge caution without preventing it from ever being used? I'd hate to overcomplicate it, but should I lessen the aging and include a table with 20 potential side effects? So here's what I'm going to say. First of all, I don't want to take away from the intended metaphor implied in this item. So number one, I love the fact that there's an item that basically is a long rest in a bottle, turning a short rest into a long rest, but there needs to be a cost involved. Otherwise, this item's too good. I love that you're mixing the idea of burning the candle at both ends.
Yes,
implies this overexertion.
I have a question actually, because I think Boffer Beerbane's in the chat. When you burn the candle, does the benefit apply to the entire party or just one character? What was your intent there? Does this work on the whole party or does this just work on one character? Because I think that is something that needs to be clarified, and that makes a huge difference to the balance of the item.
Here's what I would do to fix this. Aging is actually not my favorite mechanic in D&D because it either doesn't matter or it matters a lot. And here's the thing, with the way that it's presented, 1 to 2, 1 year, sure, I can age 1 year, I don't care. 2 to 3, 2 years, I don't care. 25 years, am I dead?
I'm an elf, I don't care.
Yeah, so either, I actually don't love years, but then the question becomes, how do we keep the metaphor of burning a candle at both ends? What is the cost? And I actually think my answer to this, and I think Monty and I actually might have different answers to this, but my answer to this would be, you're almost costing yourself your next long rest by using this. So you need a long rest now. So you light the candle at both ends. You gain the benefits of a long rest with a short rest, but in return, your next long rest grants you no benefits.
I actually agree with you on a lot of things. So the first thing that I'll actually just say,
or exhaustion. People are just saying exhaustion in chat, but go ahead.
Okay. A consumable magic item that gives you the benefits of a long rest is actually totally balanced. Like if
I like a long rest in a bottle.
Yes, yeah. if in theory, let's just say that there was a legendary magic item that just said you drink this potion and immediately gain the benefits of a long rest. I actually think that item could exist and it would be fine. Because again, it's a legendary item, it's consumable, so it's one and done. I think it's fine. With no other drawbacks. Because actually the decision to use it is the most compelling thing. Right? And especially because it only affects one person. So there's a whole bunch of interesting decisions that are already baked into an item like this. And I think that I would actually, my one thing is that you said the candle has 3 uses. I think the candle burns up after 1 use. Make this a 1 use.
I'm
right?
I'm open to that. So it's a 1 use item.
Yeah.
You burn the candle at both ends. You get your long rest.
For one person, right?
For one person.
And you need to specify that make it a little clearer that it only works on one character, not the whole party.
What I love about that, though, is, okay, I'm going to use Drakkenheim, our live play, as an example. Sebastian, Veo, and Pluto. The amount of times that Veo and Pluto are like, let's take a short rest. And me being Sebastian, I'm like, that doesn't help me at all, guys. I'm at max health, but I'm out of spell slots. So, like, what do I, like, okay, can we take a long rest instead? And it's always that argument of, like, we don't have time for a long rest. We have time for a short rest. The two of us are going to benefit from the short rest, but you, the sorcerer, are not. If I'm a sorcerer, I can burn the candle at both ends. I can gain the benefits of my long rest while the rest of my party takes a short rest. everybody's happy. I think that this is a great magic item to award to
Yeah.
those people who need the long rest in a party of people who benefit from short
and
rest.
if it was if you do want to have the drawback, I agree with Kelly. The drawback is if you use this item, actually what I would go with, the gritty variant for long resting. So your next long rest takes a week. Yeah.
I mean, that's
yeah.
That's a long.
I know,
long rest.
but that would be but that would also be a much more powerful variant. If imagine a version of this item where it affected the entire party, and now the entire party has to take a week off.
I could also see quieting that down to a day, like you need a 24-hour long rest.
Well, the reason is I like it as a tool for the game master, because then what's interesting about this item is that you're like, I know for story reasons they're going to need this, but then afterwards they're going to get a break, and then it's fine. Like, it's actually like the secret of this item is that it's actually a tool for the game master to fix their pacing problem. Right? Like, you know those times when you have that really high intensity in adventure plan and you know that there's going to be more adventures than the characters can handle, and you're like, oh, they're going to be running on fumes. Well, then you literally are running on candle fumes. So, a few people in chat have suggested the user gaining a level of exhaustion, and I'm going to say why I disagree with that. Because if the user gains exhaustion, then now the point here is that you expended all your things and now you're gaining exhaustion. It might work better in the 1D&D version of exhaustion where you gain that small penalty. But again, I actually don't think we need to penalize the characters, because you're taking this item to gain your abilities back so you can continue on with the adventure. And I don't think we need to penalize the characters for in what they're going to be going through over the next little bit, because chances are when they're using this, they're going to be going into climactic battles anyways, where I don't necessarily want exhaustion hanging over them now. I'd rather pay the cost later. That's just me, right?
No, I agree. I could see that if they use this item, the next time they take a long rest, they have to make a save or gain a level of exhaustion. I feel like maybe no. I like the idea of exhaustion, but I actually don't think it does what I want it to here.
I think it's hard to make the wording work if you're making it if you're giving them exhaustion.
Yeah, because if I'm a player and I'm like, oh, I need to burn the candle at both ends to take my long rest, but then I'm going to gain a level of exhaustion, then that makes me worried about going into my adventuring day. And the whole point of this item is to solve the worry of going into my adventuring day. The exhaustion could kick in after 24 hours. Now it is an energy drink.
Again,
and once the energy drink wears off, I crash.
I think the 1 week, I'm going
to say 1 day.
I like the longer, I like making the next rest have to be longer. Like you have enforced time off.
Monty says 1 week. I say 24 hours. Make the next long rest 24 hours and you're good. Because sometimes in a campaign, taking a day is enough.
Yeah. I also, Faceless Nothing, this would never be a magic item you could buy in a store. This would only ever be a magic item that you find as treasure, which is why its rarity should probably be legendary. That way the DM can control when you find one. You never buy it in a store. No.
I think this magic item's actually pretty common, because don't we all burn the candle at both ends?
Tell me about it. All right,
I haven't slept in years.
Let's move along. We got another kind of cool thing here. Caleb H has sent us.
We wanted to talk about the concentration crystal.
Yes.
Concentration crystal, yeah.
So normally, the D&D rules tell you don't make a magic item that messes with concentration, that allows characters to concentrate on more than one spell at once. But I think that Caleb actually has found the exception to the rule, because this is a consumable magic item. And once again, as soon as you slap consumable on something, you can immediately get away with a lot more.
Break the game a lot more.
You can break the game a lot more when it's consumable, because a consumable magic item, again, as long as you're not putting it in shops where the player characters can stock up on them, but as something that they're finding,
you give them one.
You give them one, and then it's cool. So here's what I think. So,
Tell us what it does.
it's a one-time use magic item that you cast a concentration spell on it. The crystal then concentrates on the spell in place of the caster for 1 minute, and then it crumbles to dust. Area of effect spells have to be centered on the crystal, and spells cast on a target must have the crystal in physical contact with them. The crystal has AC 11 and 10 hit points. It's immune to psychic damage. If it's destroyed, the spell ends. So, and you still expend a spell slot as normal to cast a spell. So, I love this. Here's my notes. You don't need to have all the other requirements around casting it. Here's what happens. When you take the crystal out when you cast the spell, and you place the crystal and it floats in space while the spell's in effect. The crystal has an AC of 20, and it has 25 hit points. And it floats there, and it concentrates on the spell for you. And it glows. And so now, anyone can attack that crystal and destroy it, ending the second spell. So you already you've solved the problem of how do people react to it, but you do get the chance to have 2 concentration spells on it once.
I don't really have much else to add to that. I think that gets us there. And what I love about that is, okay, so what you're implying is this item is there. It is relevant. It is present. It is glowing.
Yep.
Everybody knows it's there. But you have 2 concentration spells. You can have 2 concentration spells in effect now. This is similar to the idea of familiars in the sense that, like, familiars, when they're in play, Monty as a DM knows the familiars are there. They're not, he has the option of nuking them pretty easily. The question is, when is it beneficial to destroy the familiar, and when is it beneficial to lay down your attacks on the players? And putting that choice to a DM who has a bunch of enemies around is interesting, because now if I'm a DM and I'm running it, it's like, oh, do I really want to waste a bunch of attacks trying to destroy this crystal? What spells are they dropping? How am I going to deal with this as a DM? It adds an interesting element to the gameplay. Yes, it can be destroyed.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe it gets destroyed in 1 turn by a dragon or something. But even if it's destroyed, it still means that an attack had to go against that crystal rather than the players.
There's all sorts of crafty ways that you could use this. Okay, here's one. You could use this with Wall of Force, and the crystal could be protected by the Wall of Force. Right? Like, you could have it that...
I would even like
there's crafty play. There's crafty play here. It could have condition immunity, and it could be immune to psychic damage. I like the idea that it doesn't have to make concentration checks itself, that it breaks when it's destroyed. And it feels like AC 20, I
think 25 hit points works. Like, 25 hit points means at lower level play, it might take a few hits. At higher level play, it might be gone in 1 hit.
Although someone did suggest that the AC is equal to your spell save DC, and the hit points.
That makes sense.
And the hit points are equal to 5 times the level of the spell. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that this is the appropriate way to break the concentration rules of D&D, because again, you give 1 to your players.
Yeah, you get 1.
And let them decide when the right time to throw down 2 concentration spells.
I also like, though, that the crystal breaks after 1 minute, so you can't use this with the 1 hour concentration spells.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But
well, you can, but only for a minute. Yeah.
If you do get your hands on this item, you should watch our our video on deadly spell combos and start planning out.
I like it. I like it. It's a perfect solution, making it consumable. It's a great way to handle it.
Yeah, and I think that just with those subtle changes, it actually lets you reduce the amount of text on this item, and you stick it in the air, it concentrates on a spell, and you're good to go. What two spells? What spell are you going to cast with it, Monty? I
Oh,
think.
Wall of Force, always.
Oh, really? I was going to do Prismatic Wall.
Prismatic Wall doesn't require concentration.
Damn, right. That's not in our double concentration video. That's in our not double concentration video.
Yeah.
I was going to do my Prismatic Wall reverse gravity, but I forgot. I think I'm for my entire career in D&D, I will always forget that Prismatic Wall doesn't require concentration because that spell's ridiculous. Anyway, uh, who do we got next?
We got the Serpent Gauntlet, and this is by Bastard Axe.
Cool.
So the Serpent Gauntlet, it is armor. Although I wonder if you could make this a weapon. Requires attunement by a character with strength or con 15 or greater. This magical piece of armor was designed to resemble an iron serpent coiled around the wearer's forearm and hand. It grants the wearer +1 AC. When you take the attack action on your turn and are holding nothing else in the hand wearing the gauntlet, you can replace one of your attacks with an effect identical to Thorn Whip or Acid Splash, using Strength as your spellcasting ability. When you cast these spells, the gauntlet appears to animate, lashing out and burying its fang to create the spell effects. I like this item a lot. My only feedback would actually be to break the spell effects out of the container of the spell and have those referenced in the item itself, and that way it's not a spell. It's just this is the special attack that this item lets you do.
I have one other note. I think this is really, really cool, but when I read, first of all, the description of the coiled snake, and second of all, the fact that it's a gauntlet, my first thought was that I want to use this as a monk.
Yes.
But
yes.
It's tied to strength.
Yes. So
and monks get shafted a lot, let's just be real. I want a serpent coiled fisticuff on my monk that I also +1 to AC. Monks want that. So I feel like this could be used by a fighter.
Yeah, but
I actually wish that this was an unarmed strike amplifier for a monk.
Yeah, I agree. I think that by not having it reference the spells Thorn Whip and Acid Splash, but actually making it so that the item just lets you do an attack that does a certain amount of damage, that scales, that does
and it can pull the enemy in.
Yeah, right. It is armor at the moment, but I would change it to a weapon.
I would change it to a weapon. Yeah. Now, okay, if the design intent is to not have it be used for monks, possibly what Bastard Axe was going for was an item that he wanted to design, that they wanted to design for a fighter or a barbarian. And if that's the case, then ignore me. I read it and I thought monks, but then I was like, oh, it doesn't work on monks. But if it was a weapon that could augment your unarmed strikes, worked with dexterity, added +1 to your AC, and let you lash out, attack, and pull people, or deliver acid damage, that would be really, really cool. If your goal is to put it on a barbarian, I still would maybe make it a weapon, but then maybe the implication here is use it on a barbarian while still carrying a great axe.
I read this and I thought, this is a monk item. Why is it using strength? Like I immediately thought it, because not the least of which because we made the way of the serpent monk, right? So this made me think of all that too, right? So
I mean, yeah, I might be biased on the serpent teen monk vibes, but
yeah.
All in all, I think this is a really cool item, and if you didn't intend for it to be for a monk,
consider it.
Then don't.
Yeah, but
I mean, or
I would just say consider it. Like consider it. This could be a really cool magic item for a monk. And that's what I would do. And yeah, you could also make it a wondrous item as well. For a cool option. Right?
Yeah. Wondrous item. You could even just say like strength or dexterity 15 and say that you can choose to use your strength or dexterity, and then that way it's because I also see the argument for barbarians. Barbarians want a little bit of armor help.
Yeah.
and barbarians want. But then again, this is a piece of medium armor. So I think the two classes that want to use this the most are the barbarian and the monk, neither of which should be wearing armor. I wouldn't make it armor, and then those two classes can benefit from this item.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
So those that's
I
my
think it
note.
works well as a wondrous item. Yeah.
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 Yeah. We have one more left, which is great because we are almost at time.
Yeah, and we're looking at the delirium. We're looking at the Delirium Knuckles by ON. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're going to finish with this one. It's a little Drakenheimy. For those of you who are unaware, Monty and I have a published campaign setting,
Yep.
an adventure in the world of Drakenheim. So if you're unfamiliar with what this item is referencing, Delirium is a magical crystal found in our world, and arcane anomalies are something that happen when you mess with Delirium. So let's take a look at this item. Delirium Knuckles, wondrous item, very rare, requires attunement. While wearing these on your knuckles, your unarmed strikes gain a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls. They count as magical. When you see a creature within 5 feet of you cast a spell, you may use a reaction to make an unarmed strike against them. And if you hit, the spell fails, and instead an arcane anomaly appears from the point of origin where the spell would have been. I think that's really cool. I like that these.
I think the only feedback here is I wonder if the spellcaster should get a saving throw.
Okay, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds
Right.
that sounds pretty fair.
Right. Like you have to hit. You're using your reaction. You have to hit. Because
the power of counterspelling a spell with no roll required. Like you could counter a 9th level spell by punching the caster in the face.
Well, here's the thing: there is a roll required, right? The roll required is
hit.
to hit roll, but the thing is that not only you're getting the chance to damage them, plus you're canceling their spell and replacing it with an arcane anomaly. So like it's almost like the item would be strong enough if you just got to make opportunity attacks when people cast spells beside you, right?
Let's also remember that the arcane anomaly table has so much randomness that
Yeah.
it says at the point of origin, but there are effects in our arcane anomaly table that affect the caster regardless of the point that the spell. So like there's a chance. Okay, let's just take the most wild one here. There's a chance that you punch the wizard in the face, stop his spell, and a whale falls and lands on both of you. That's wild.
That is funny. It's a great. I'm just partial to anything that uses the arcane anomalies, right? It's just a cool way to.
For those. Okay, so this question did pop in. We couldn't use the wild magic table in our book, and we also wanted a table that was less tied specifically to a sorcerer.
Yeah.
So we made an arcane anomaly table that has a list of random effects, all magical in property, that is separated from the wild magic table and more universally applicable to magical phenomenon occurring in your game settings.
Because one of the things that you note is if you read through the whole wild magic table, there's a bunch of entries in it that assume that it is happening to a sorcerer, right? And that like reference things like your meta magic and your spell slots and stuff like that. And so that's where we wanted to make sure that the arcane anomaly table could work for any random magical phenomena independent of the presence of a sorcerer.
Yes, and my favorite ability, if you are a fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, if you roll a 20 on the arcane anomaly table, an aquatic mammal and a pot of flowers appear in the air above you. Oh no, not again, says the flowers as they plummet towards the earth. So yes, if you roll a 20 after punching the wizard, you're going to get crushed by a whale. Yeah, so I like this item.
I do
think that there needs to be a saving throw because negating spells is pretty intense.
Yeah.
But the shenanigans that happen with like people who like rolling on random tables love our Arcane Anomaly table. This is an item that you give to that character that just wants to mess with Arcane Anomalies. Jill, every time an Arcane Anomaly rolls, it doesn't matter if it's going to utterly destroy us. Jill cheers. You could roll like an explosion happens and we all die, and Jill will still be
What it
cheering.
could be is that the spellcaster has to make a spellcasting ability check, and they have to exceed the to hit roll against you. That could be an interesting thing. Otherwise, they lose their spell. They still take the damage, but then they have. So if you crit them and you have like a huge attack bonus, they are going to lose the spell.
The argument that being within 5 feet of the caster is niche. It's not niche if you're a martial combatant. My goal is always to get next to the caster and beat them with.
It is a little niche. The thing is that just because an ability is niche doesn't mean that it should be a golden hammer in its within its own niche. Like some things like automatically shutting down a spellcaster are pretty strong. And in general, like, yeah, I just feel like I would want to roll. I'd want one more roll on there because you're already getting the damage, right? Yeah.
All in all, I think really cool items tonight. I'm sorry that we didn't have a chance to go through everybody's submissions. That would have taken a lot longer. Obviously, it took us 2 hours to do 10.
Yep.
So
That's why
100 would have been a lot longer.
Yeah. That I mean, always with the homebrew workshops, it's a lot of fun to discuss everything, and who knows what we're going to be in for. But I was really impressed with the quality of all the submissions that we received, and I really like the conversation that spurred out of all these ones that we looked at tonight, including some items that many of these I think are ready for the table. Honestly, just as written, and others I think are super, just need a couple small tweaks, and some were just fun and maybe never inflict them on your table, like our super immovable rod. But I love the discussion that we had.
Yeah. Next time we'll spend the entire 2 hours discussing a greater immovable rod and the question of physics in a fantasy setting.
Yeah.
And the One Ring destruction rules.
Yes. We actually did have a video idea about like what dungeon masters could learn from Lord of the Rings, and maybe we do need to have that. Like, what are the lessons? What are the actual takeaways from LOTR?
Frodo Baggins is a magic item.
Frodo Baggins is a magic item?
The party carries him.
Does he require attunement?
Yes, he requires one of your attunement slots. He's a cursed item because he doesn't do anything useful.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Actually, to end this, I saw a meme the other day that the implication that Sam carries Frodo implies that the ring doesn't understand like transient power values. So the whole time they could have taped the ring to a rat and carried the rat, and nobody would have been affected by the ring other than the rat. And we'll leave you with that.
All right. In any case, thank you all so much for your submissions. We will be doing the homebrew workshops on a much more regular basis, and having going forward. These were greatly missed. They're a little bit more work for us to do these because it does take the time to go through all the submissions, but a lot of fun regardless tonight. And I think we learned a lot about designing stuff. Let us know what you think we should do for the next homebrew workshop. Should we do spells? Should we do subclasses? Should we do classes? I don't think we can do classes. I think that's too much.
The hardest ones for us to do, you won't see homebrew workshops for classes or homebrew settings because we just can't cover those. Like if we did classes, we'd be able to maybe get 2, which wouldn't be fair. And if we did a homebrew setting, we would maybe get 1/3 of somebody's idea into a 2-hour video. So
when is the movie review? we're seeing it tomorrow.
Wink.
We're seeing it.
Yeah,
We're
we
seeing it
have tickets
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
And probably, unfortunately, we just are not as fast as other people.
A bunch of people got advanced screening tickets, and we didn't even know that was an option. We're going on opening night, and we thought we were ahead of the game, and everybody already has their reviews out, and we're like, well,
yeah, no,
where
our
was
review
our...
is I think we are going to do the spoilerific review because our review is going to come out on, I think, next Thursday. So we're gonna do the review that doesn't care, that assumes that you've seen it.
I have my Chris Pine right here.
Yeah.
For those of you who didn't notice, he's in my background there. That's my Chris Pine toy that I haven't opened yet.
Ooh.
Um,
Yeah. We did get Wizards did send us a mimic. It
yes.
showed up with a bunch of toys inside it and a chocolate bar that tasted awful.
Did you have it?
It was bad.
Oh,
it
no.
was not tasty. It was not tasty at all. Yeah.
I mean, Chris Pine the Bard made it.
Yeah.
His name's Chris Pine the Bard. I know that he has... What's his name? I don't know. Geldwin or... I don't... He has some... But he's just Chris Pine. Yeah, we got the box. We divvied it up amongst the entire crew. Everybody took something.
Yeah.
Jill took the Nerf gun, I believe.
Yeah.
I have a book somewhere.
Yeah, we also did get... Whiz Kids also sent us some cool stuff too, and
I think we're going to be looking at Onslaught.
Yeah, and
Edgin.
Yeah,
Edgin.
And we do have a big weekend because in addition to going to the movie, we did get invited to attend the Creator Summit digitally.
Not physically.
So
we are going to be sitting where we're sitting right now in pajamas, going to a digital version of the summit to see what's going on there.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's what you would expect. I mean, we're just a small YouTube channel, so we only got the digital the digital invite. I guess we just need to have a bigger following in order for us to be physically and you know, I guess authors of
I'm cutting you off.
Yeah.
Point made. Yeah, we weren't invited to the summit. Interestingly enough, I don't want to say I'm surprised by that. That makes me sound a little full of myself, but I'm mildly surprised that we weren't invited. But
we were invited digitally, and honestly,
we live in Canada, and I didn't really know if I could make the trip anyway, so this actually works better for me.
So we'll see what's going on with that. Expect a full report on that. And what who knows? We do have some friends that are attending physically as well. That we might get some word on how that goes. We'll see. So, and all that to say that the people that are attending physically are phenomenal people. And we're so glad that they got that invite. We just not to be bitter or trite about it. The people that are going are absolutely amazing. So
I wouldn't want to replace anybody that is going with myself.
No.
I just when they were like, we're inviting creators, I was like, all right. And then we heard nothing, and I was like, okay. So yeah, we'll see what's going on with that. We're gonna go see the movie. We're filming more Drakkenheim this weekend. And we're going to try to do a movie review, a summit review.
Yeah.
And we'll try to keep everybody posted on the ongoings of tabletop RPGs in our community and just keep everybody up to date.
Yeah. So in any case, a big thank you to all of us for everyone for participating in the Homebrew workshop tonight. And we've got lots of exciting things to go over in the coming weeks. So thank you all so much. Have a lovely evening.
Have a good one, everybody. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.